How does it feel to work with the Iggy Azalea and Tinashe on this song? Is it cool to be signed by Universal Music Publishing? And how to defeat the writer's block if you write and produce every single day? Answers for that questions and many more you will hear in that podcast. My name is George �𝐀𝐄𝐎. I'm multi-platinum awarded artist, songwriter, and music producer, and I welcome you on this vlog and podcast, Music Business in Details, for every new and upcoming artist to gain more knowledge and to make less mistakes. Today's topic is writing and productions. Before we start, I would really appreciate if you like this video, subscribe and hit the bell button. It really helps the video to rank better in the search queries of YouTube. You did it, now let's jump right in. In the beginning of every podcast, I want to say that I'm truly sorry for my English because English is not my first language, so sometimes I can say grammarly wrong things or forget some words, but I'll really try to do my best. So today I have two guests, not one, but they are representing one producer's brand. They're already signed to Universal Music Publishing Group and work with the Dimitry Vegas Like Mike, Gucci Mane, Bone Thugs, 𝐷𝐵, Maddie Pope, and many more. They wrote a new single for Iggy Azalea and Tinashe, Dance Like No One's Watching, which will be released this Friday. Their music was on ESPN, NFL, NHL, NBA, and many more. They co-wrote with Ryan Tedder, JR Rotem, Monsters and Strangerz, and many more hit songwriters. Please welcome super creative duo from Los Angeles, Mac and Jordan Monroe, also known as the 87s. Woo!
Yeah.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Hey. So what was your path to start working in the music business, and how did you have an idea to work as a production duo?
Yeah, you start.
So, I grew up playing sports pretty competitively, and then played piano as well, played the drums, played saxophone for 1 year, sang in choir but never really sang. Was just there for a good time, and then
Those choir girls.
then I got injured, and that stopped me from playing sports, and then that like pushed me into the direction of music, and graduated high school, went to USC, started picking up music more than just a hobby. And then went from graduating college to having my own studio, linking up with Jordan, and that's kind of like where my path led me to Jordan, but I'll let Jordan kind of fill in how he found me.
Sure. Yeah, well, it started, Mike was making beats in his dorm room and stuff, and I was playing in bands in college. So I come from more of a live instrument background. Mike came from more of the, working in Pro Tools, sequencing drums, like that type of background. He had started doing some producer showcases and stuff like that before we even met. And then I was writing choruses and playing guitar for this rapper who we won't mention because he's long gone from the industry. I showed up to the studio. I showed up to the studio one day, and Mike was producing the session. And I sat down to start working with Mike, and it was pretty clear quickly that we had musical chemistry. Like, we both had sort of sets of skills that the other one was missing. Mike had all of the digital audio workstation knowledge, like all of the sequencing knowledge, like all of the, like a lot of EQ and like mixing and just like software stuff that I didn't know, and I had a lot of musical theory knowledge.
You sing.
I sing and play guitar and and play a bunch of different instruments, so it just was a natural fit. And one day Mike asked me, hey, would you be down to try to write songs for Justin Bieber? And I had never thought about doing that before, because I played in like hardcore bands and like emo-core like bands and stuff growing up, and I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. And then we just started writing songs together. And during that period, Mike had sparked up a relationship with Zach Katz, who at the time was the head of Beluga Heights, the label that had Jason Derulo and Sean Kingston and a bunch of other artists. And so we were sort of going back and forth, sending songs to Zach Katz during that sort of initial period. and we ended up signing through Zach and Rondor a co-publishing deal with Rondor Publishing, and then that kind of led us into the Universal world.
Cool. By the way, you talked about the emo influence, and you know that Max Martin was starting as a metal band. So yeah, it's just like everything goes to the pop. What were your biggest influences in music when you start to write your own stuff?
For me, growing up, Eminem and Jay-Z were both like huge influences in me in terms of like getting interested in like writing and everything, and DMX as well. I used to really like all three of them. And then on the production side, Dr. Dre, Timbaland, Pharrell, Scott Storch, the Neptunes as a team. Those were, and Rick Rubin and Just Blaze, like those were like my go-to guys that I just tried to study as much as I possibly could. And those were the guys that like really showed me that you could make a wonderful living making music. So those were the key influences in my career and in my life when it comes to music.
And for me, like I said, I grew up playing in bands and stuff. I always idolized guitar players growing up. So, you know, I used to listen to Jimi Hendrix and the Allman Brothers and, you know, Steve Vai and like all of these kind of guitar gods growing up. My dad was super into classic rock, so that was kind of where I started to really fall in love with music, like the Who and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and like all that.
Creed.
Yeah, classic rock like Creed.
Nickelback. Creed.
No, but then as I started kind of writing, I started writing songs in my bedroom when I was like 14, and I was really trying to emulate like the emo bands of the day. I was super into Taking Back Sunday. I was super into My Chemical Romance, like bands like that, and I was really writing in that style. Which is like these big, very esoteric lyrics and super, you know, poor me kind of white boy rock, I guess you could call it. And
Suburban.
And yeah, suburban, me and all my suburban issues, right? But I really started, but also all the while I was listening, like one of the first albums I ever bought with my own money was the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. Like I also grew up on hip hop as well. Sort of simultaneously with that, I just never really dove into making it until later, until I learned, you know, how to put drums together and all that stuff. And I really learned a lot of that through working with Mike. So my influences changed over the years, and I started to really develop a love and respect and appreciation for pop songwriting. You know, like Max Martin is like, I mean, just like, I know just from talking to you, like, how much you love and respect him. So I just after looking at his craft over the years, like people like him and Diane Warren, but then even going back to like Carole King, like writers like Carole King, I'm such a huge fan of her songwriting craft and stuff, and how that sort of weaves into modern songwriting as well. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty good list of influences.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Universal Music and how does Universal Music, how did you have a deal with Universal Music Publishing?
So as Jordan alluded to earlier, I started entering myself into producer showcases, and I entered myself in this one iStandard producer showcase in Los Angeles. I actually ended up winning, and Zach Katz was one of the judges. So one of the prizes that you got for winning was like a meeting with him. So when I went to go meet with him, I played him some music that Jordan and I had done together, and it was mostly just like kind of some pop songs, I think, but not too many. It was more so like just tracks and everything. And so then he brought Jordan and I into the office pretty much every other week, I think, and just was like, you know, kind of grooming us to be producer songwriters and work on songs that they had for their roster. So at the time that was like 𝐖𝐀𝐄𝐿, Sean Kingston, Jason Derulo, and then a girl named Auburn. And so we were working on music for them, and that's when, after, I want to say, I don't know, 6 months to a year, something like that.
6 to 8 months, I think.
Zach put a deal on the table for us because we had landed a song with 𝐕𝐈𝐼𝐄 that was supposed to come out, and we're still waiting for that to come out 10 years later because he got dropped. So
yeah, they ended up putting out, we were slated to have the second single. He did that song Replay. Shorty like a melody in my head, can't keep on singing like so we were slated to have his second single after that song, and then the singles got switched, and they ended up putting out a different song called Pretty Girls as the second single, and it flopped pretty hard, and then he ended up getting dropped. So our song never came out, and we kind of, went from the new, like, oh, these guys could do something, to pretty unimportant on the roster pretty quickly.
Yeah. Can you tell, like, nowadays, how does Universal Music Publishing help you in your career?
So we have a great relationship with our publisher. Our point person, our A&R, Brooke Story, has been phenomenal ever since she took us over. We've done a lot of writing camps with her and Universal, and trips across the United States, which has been phenomenal. And we're also really good friends with the people that work in the sync team, and always stay on their radar and basically feed them the music that they need. So we have a very great working relationship. Everybody there is extremely kind, and they are extremely grateful when we send them music, and I would say our communication is just A1. And I personally love having them as our publisher.
No, I was just gonna say that we've always had a great relationship with the sync team, because we were with Rondor initially, and they got absorbed into their Rondor doesn't exist anymore. They got absorbed into Universal, and pretty quickly after that happened, we started really developing a great working relationship with the sync team. But it wasn't, we went through a few A&Rs on the writing side, like more on the pop writing side, until we finally landed with Brooke. So we had this great relationship with the sync team, and then as soon as we landed Brooke, it was like, you could tell the difference in the room. When she heard our stuff, she smiled, like she was a fan of ours from the jump, and she's just worked so hard for us. I don't have enough good things to say about her. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. So can you tell how the process goes? You just make a demo inside of that room, and then you send it to Universal, and then they think who can sing that demo, or how does it go usually?
So normally there are a couple scenarios that could happen. So Jordan and I could just work solo with ourselves, because Jordan sings, we both write, we both produce. So we could, kind of one-stop shop it. So if we don't have a session, then that's what Jordan and I will do. But if we have a session with one or two writers, which typically speaking, we don't want to do more than two writers because it's just so many people in a room. But always open for more collaboration, if we can't get it right, for sure. But so the writers will come in, we'll sit down, talk about how we're feeling, talk about different songs that have been out, talk about different vibes that we like in terms of production style or sounds or genre-wise, and then just start spitballing ideas, and then, one thing leads to another, and we start a melody for a chorus, and then start writing a chorus, and then go to writing the verse to the pre. Everything gets done in here together. And then after we finish our demo, we send it off to either our management and Universal, and we just kind of game plan in terms of like, what is this best suited for? Is this like a song that we believe would be able to get pitched and land with an artist, or is this song best suited for film and TV? Is this song maybe working for one of the songwriters who wants to have their own like artist career. You know, there's so many different options, but yeah, obviously it all starts in here.
Yeah. So let's talk about your new big release, Iggy Azalea and Tinashe, Dance Like Nobody Watching. Can you please tell the story how it all started from the beginning till the release is going to be on Friday?
Jordan, myself, this artist and songwriter named Haven, and Iggy got together, started writing this record called Dance Like Nobody's Watching, and also have to have a major shout out to Bobby Sessions, who also helped co-write the song as well. So all of us got together, wrote and produced this song called Dance Like Nobody's Watching after we did the rough with like, you know, Haven on the chorus.
And in the pre-chorus and the chorus.
Yeah. With her demo vocals in there. Then Iggy was like super excited about the record. After that, she called up Tinashe. Tinashe loved the record. Her team loved the record. They recorded the next day, and things happened actually like really quickly because Iggy moved on the record really fast, and same thing with Tinashe. So after Tinashe got her vocals on it, it wasn't until like, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks later that they started to announce that the song is actually going to be released. So things happened like really quick, and I'm extremely grateful for our management at Hallwood Media for all their help along the way and getting this moving, because this is our biggest release so far, and we're extremely excited about it.
Sure. And also Chris 𝐷𝐾𝐄𝐒 on Iggy's side as well was a big champion of the record from the beginning, and we've sort of had an on and off relationship with Chris throughout our, you know, stay in the industry and stuff. And he came in the studio one of the days we were working on the song and just was losing his mind about it. So that was really cool to see, and we hadn't seen him in a long time. So like he was a big supporter of the record from the jump as well, and kind of helped things move really quickly too.
So the beginning of the work was in July, I think.
Yes.
So it's like from the beginning till the release is gonna be like a month or less than a month.
Probably a little bit more than a month.
Yeah, just a little over.
But overall, it's just super quick because sometimes songs can be released like for years.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's really cool. And also you have a great EDM song with Dimitry Vegas and Like Mike featuring Gucci Mane that's called All I Need. And how did that song come to life?
So that's the complete opposite of what happened with Dance Like Nobody's Watching.
That was such a long process.
Because that song was done like probably almost 6 years before it got released.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of different versions of that song with Dimitry Vegas and Like Mike. Like they had done another version that had Juicy J on it, and I think and then 𝐬𝐃𝐄𝐎. But so that song went through a bunch of different transformations, but really happy with how it turned out, and it's pretty amazing that a song that you write like 6 years ago will still stand the test of time and, you know, come out at some point. So that was like a really interesting situation, because we were like, wow, we've been sitting on this for so long, like finally it's coming out. So it was a good feeling, but it just shows the difference in terms of what can happen in the music industry after you write a song. It could come out like very soon, or it could come out not very soon. The opposite of that, very late.
Yeah. You worked with super amazing creative people such as Tedder, JR Rotem, Monsters and Strangerz, and many more. Can you tell like upcoming producers and artists who never been like in a camps or in a room with another producers, how does it usually goes, and how do you set it up, and what's the process inside the room where you all got together and the magic happens?
Well, specifically with with JR Rotem, you know, we had a co-publishing deal through his label, Beluga Heights, you know, through his label. So we were working with JR mostly remotely, sending ideas back and forth, and he would, you know, now and then put touches on it. And then there were a few times where we would go in the room with him to work on something we had started, you know, separately, just to kind of bring it the rest of the way home. That's a lot of the times, and that's a similar thing to with the Monsters and Strangerz. We actually worked in a studio space that was right above them, and so we just became friends with them from working in proximity. So that's a huge thing for upcoming people, just being around, being in the room. Like, that's how that entire relationship started, was just because that's where our studio space was. So we started talking to them and became friends and started playing them ideas. And the way that we collaborated was, and I think this is a great way to level up as a producer, is to come up with starts, you know, really great soundscapes or a really great idea for a song. And then if you're around, you know, you just like pitch ideas. You can pitch ideas, and that's a great way to sort of set a foundation for, oh, I'd love to help you finish that, you know. And that's a lot of the way that we have worked with you know, gotten in and worked with some of these people. The Ryan Tedder situation was a very specific one. We had written a song that was just a chorus with a very talented artist in her own right named PJ and Paris Jones. And that got pitched, and it was intended to be a Travie McCoy song. And Ryan Tedder heard it and loved it, and we actually collaborated over the phone with Ryan on the chorus, on trying to kind of tailor the chorus a little bit, and then just kind of went back and forth digitally, just talking to him via email and stuff like that. And that's how we collaborated with him, and that was just from pitching a song that you know, perked his ears up. So it can happen a number of different ways, and those are a few of the different ways that it happened for us.
And I would say, like, one thing, you know, to upcoming producers and whatnot, and I still put ourselves in that category, is like, just be a nice person to work with, be a great collaborator. Don't ask for too much, but also don't ask for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you got to find that balance. Like, you want to learn from somebody, but don't like nag somebody. Don't, like, you know, constantly send them music all the time. Like, pick and choose. Like, be your own worst, your own critic, or best critic, I guess. You know, send the stuff that you're really, really excited about. Send the stuff that you really believe in. Don't just send, like, you know, 10 to 20 songs, because nobody has time to just sit down and do that, unless they're like, hey, send me everything. So I think, you know, for up and coming producers and writers, like, be a great collaborator. Know that the best idea in the room wins. It doesn't, just because maybe one song you have like 10 lines more than everybody else, doesn't mean you're a better writer. And if you have 10 lines less, but you write that one gold line, that's, like, you know, just as important. So understand that things happen in so many different ways, and know that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and just be easy with people. Keep it chill. Lose the ego and be humble.
And just to add a little bit onto that, you know, just on be easy, be chill. Like, it's really important to just be genuine and be yourself too, because people can smell desperation and fake, you know, shit a mile away. It's really important to just be who you are, and just try to make genuine connections with people. Like, genuine human connections. We're making art at the end of the day, right? So that's an emotional thing, and it's important that it comes from a real place. And so when you're meeting new collaborators, whatever level in the industry they might be, you know, you're not going to hit with every single person. Some people collaborate well together, some people don't. So you just have to kind of just be your genuine self, and just try and, like I said, just reach out and make real human connections. Like, people want to work with their friends, and people that, and that, an important part of that is just, like, being super genuine. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, you already answered to the next question, how not to ruin chemistry when you're collaborating with other people. Yeah. So what do you find easier, to write a beat or to write a song, and what's like your typical writing process?
I think making beats is way easier than making a fire song. Like writing a hit song is the hardest thing in the music industry, because if it was the easiest, there'd be a lot of hit songs out there that, you know, continue, you know, to break records and stuff. And here, like, you have those special records, they exist, but it's, you know, they're
few and far between.
They're very rare. So I think, like, you know, if you have musical theory knowledge or just a really good ear in terms of what kind of goes together when it comes to production, you're going to be able to put together something that's going to be really dope. But at the same time, that's just a beat, you know, and I feel like people move to melody, people move to words, people connect to words, and they want to see an image. So as wonderful as I think beats are, I think that songs are more important, because they're the ones that really invoke the emotion. Like, production is like the bed, right? And the song is the person. So, you know, it's like, what do you put your focus on when you're going to bed? Your bed or the person that you're sleeping next to? And that's always preference, you know?
Yeah. Can you agree that a hit song is a mix of coincidences? Because you should write a hit, you should write a right song, a right artist should sing it, and a right marketing team should promote it. So it's just a mix of coincidences, just put in a line. So like all the stars will go like on the sky in one line. So that's, you get a hit song.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of great songs that never make the charts because it's not the right artist, or it's not. But then on the flip side, there are songs that are so amazing that 3 different artists over a span of decades have recorded them, and they've been hits every time the song comes out, you know, like so. And there's a difference between a hit, like a current hit song, and a copyright, I think. You know, you've got like I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston. That is a copyright. That song will last forever. That song will stand the test of time. And then I don't want to disparage any songs by any other hit songs by naming anything specific, but then there are songs that are just a moment in time, and they'll come, they'll be a hit, and then they'll disappear. And that's really, and a lot of times that's about just a vibe. Like, it's just, it feels right for the moment. And sometimes that really has to do a lot with the sonics of the track, the you know, the tone of the artist's voice, the fact that that specific artist is hitting right now, things like that. But then, you know, when you really focus on lyric and melody and really trying to drive home an emotion, you know, when you can do that and get all of those stars aligning perfectly, and then all the other stars align, the marketing and the artist and all that stuff, that's when you have a copyright. I mean, that's what you strive for, you know? I mean, that's what we strive for.
Yeah, but if we're talking about the Whitney Houston and golden era with Michael Jackson and some biggest hits, there wasn't so many songs that they were releasing a day, that people didn't got so much music like they're getting now. So now it's just hype time. People just getting hype, and they just lose it in the month.
Yeah. Sure. It's way easier to get lost in the shuffle now just because of the quantity.
Yeah. As the creators, we always expect a writer's block. And how do you deal with it? And what's your recipe to get rid of it as fast as possible?
So you take your head and you bang it on the wall 3 times, and you spin and you do a cartwheel, and then you don't have writer's block anymore. No, I think when it comes to writer's block, or, you know, not getting what you want per se out of a song, that's when you gotta know when to take a step back and reset and refocus, and like kind of let that experience, whether it be bad or good or indifferent, of writing a song that you're stuck on, be that song. close that door, open up another door, like go outside and write, go to a different room and write, schedule maybe another day to write, but don't let that one experience of like a bad session or a bad song, you know, trickle down and affect the rest of your songs that are forthcoming. So I think, at least for me, knowing when to stop and move on to a new idea and find new inspiration, that helps excuse me, that helps for me with writer's block. What about you?
Yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as like, I think your point about like knowing when it's time to move on is really important, because you can be 2-3 hours into a session. It happens to us still. You can be 2-3 hours into a session and you're banging your head against a wall trying to get a chorus right, and it's just not coming. And sometimes it's just as simple as being like, let's try something else. And then I'll try some different chords on the guitar, or Mike will play a different sound, you know, and it'll take you in a totally different direction. And it's just about, I think it's just about reigniting that spark of inspiration. You know, just to sort of allude to what Mike said before, whatever way helps you do that, you know? If you like need to, you know, smoke a little something, get outside of your head. If you need to like go just like have a conversation with a friend, you need to like
Go for a walk,
go for a hike, like listen. And sometimes it's just as simple as listening to other music. Just being like, just getting in, throwing on your headphone and being like, you know, listening to your top 10 favorite songs, or putting on New Music Friday, or putting on like the A-list pop playlist, and just like get some new inspiration, however it works best for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you produce, do you use Splice, Sounds.com, or Loop Cloud, and what do you think about that platforms?
I don't know actually about Loop. You said Loop Club?
Loop Cloud.
Cloud.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I use Splice. I mean, at first I kind of like was like, wow, this feels like cheating. But at the same time, I mean, it's there. So everybody has the same quote unquote weapons, right? So it's leveled the playing field in a lot of capacities, and I think it, you know, tests your creativity to not just necessarily take a loop and just make that the thing. Like, you want to take that and make it your own, right? So I think the quote is, "Great artists steal, bad artists copy," and that couldn't be more true when it comes to Splice. So it's like, what are you doing with those sounds that everybody else has? Are you just copying them, or are you stealing them and making them your own? You know. So for me, I challenge myself all the time of like, okay, well, if this is a sound on Splice that everybody else has, how can I make it to where it's not a sound that everybody else has? But also at the same time, if it's that fire and it's that good, you know, I might keep it the way that it is, but what makes my song better or more placeable than somebody else is the actual lyrics and the melody. So that's why I always say, like, yeah, beats are important and they're cool, but at the same time, like, no one's gonna have the same splice loop, the same song title, the same melody. It's, you know,
the same drums, the same
exactly,
you know, synths that you layer on top of it too.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, just to answer your question, I would say I think it's great. I think that all these different sounds, you know, help expand the music industry and make it more readily available to people. But sometimes what can be a gift can also be a curse. So it's just how you use it.
But also, just, going back to the inspiration conversation, you know, if you're in a writing session and I have my guitar, my acoustic guitar, you know, and nothing's hitting, sometimes if you just like go through, you know, Mike will stack 10 splice loops that are really like amazing, and sometimes it can really spark the ideas, like song ideas, because a lot of times there's a vibe already baked into them, you know. So even if you don't end up using that loop exactly the way that it was, it can be a really great source of inspiration in a writing session.
And another thing is too, you can even just take a splice loop progression. So say, for example, you're like, okay, cool, I really love this vibe, those chords feel really emotive to me, you know. So then I'll be like, all right, Jordan, can you take the chords from this splice loop, and we'll,
Make something different.
make something different off of that,
Yeah. So what can you name the biggest success that you have now in your career?
Honestly, I'd say the biggest success is not letting the music industry bring me down, and not letting the focus on big streaming numbers or how much money you have or don't have. I'm happy. I'm like genuinely happy, and I think that's my biggest success. Like, in terms of being in the music industry this long and being able to make music and do what I love and be able to support myself financially, that's like the biggest thing for me. Obviously, we're all shooting for plaques and records to be broken by songs that we write, but at the same time, if you're not happy throughout all that, it doesn't mean anything. So for me, my peace, my happiness, that's my biggest success for being in the music industry for 10 plus years.
And I think for me, I mean, just I'm a super sensitive guy. Like I'm a very emotional person. I had a really hard time at the beginning when we were first working with Zach Katz, because his criticism was so harsh, and I wasn't used to that, but it sort of helped shape us into better writers. And I think for me, my biggest success is still being here, because there were so many super low points where I was working some side job and, spending 10 hours in the studio and then 8 hours at my other job, and just exhausted, emotionally just drained, haven't had a win in months and stuff like that. And I think just, first of all, like having somebody to go through that with has been like great, because we've been able to kind of shoulder the burden and really help each other out of those moments. But just overall, I think the fact that I've stuck it out, that we've stuck it out, and that we're still here, that's the biggest success.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate. If you don't have much success in a long time, you just go desperate and you're just thinking that nothing's gonna happen and I think I can quit. And every musician has this thoughts in his head, like, yeah. And it's good that we're talking about, because next question, that in the music business there are also ups and downs, and what downs did you have in your path and how did you handle them?
I mean, downs in our path would be, we ain't got any money. We had no placements, we had no management, we had nobody really like on our team per se, so it was just us. But I think the thing is, like, that's not necessarily me or us complaining. It's just, that is just the nature of the business. Sometimes you can be like super hot, you're a fresh new signing, and people want to work with you, but then after a while, if you don't get a record place, it's like that shiny new toy that you once was, now you're not, So I think for us, the low points turn to lessons, and I think that is something that's bigger than just music too, right? Like, you got to take the lowest points in your life and use them as lessons, so to where you can build yourself back up and get back on your feet 10 times stronger. So to speak on the specific low points, I pass it off to you.
Yeah. I mean, well, I sort of alluded to one of to sort of how things started for us, but when we started in the industry, we had this big single with a super poppin' artist, like, ready to come out, and when that song didn't come out and then that artist got dropped, we had nothing else on the dock. We had nothing else loaded up, ready to go. So we just fell down the ladder so fast. And so we had a really, like, what felt like a pretty quick rise. We got signed, we were working with JR, we were working with some, like working on some top artist projects, and then we fell hard really fast. And it took us a really long time to build back up from that. We were working on, we were finding artists through, and I credit much of this to Mike because, you know, he was hustling his ass off, but, you know, finding artists to work with on Craigslist, you know, like independent artists working through companies that like, you know, find young artists with independent artists with budgets and pair them with producers. Like we were doing that type of stuff for years, doing little small commercial submissions, you know, for $3,000 here, $5,000 there, just every day clawing our way back up. And so when we talk about low points, it's like it was like this, and then like that, and then the whole first, you know, 5 to 6 years of our career was climbing out. It felt like we were climbing a mountain, you know? Yeah. And it made us really resilient, I think. I mean, the lows don't feel so low now because, you know.
And I also think too, you know, going back to lows being lessons, you know, for us, we learned so much from being on the bottom because we had to take care of everything ourselves, right? We started realizing how many different ways you can make money in the music industry. We started realizing that, you know, just because you don't have a album or a single with Justin Bieber doesn't mean that you're untalented. There's so many different ways to make money in the music industry, so I think it really pushed us creatively in the business aspect. So just because you don't have a cut on Justin Bieber's album or his single or whatever doesn't mean that you're not talented. It just is a telltale sign that, you know, that album, that single wasn't for you, that wasn't your time, and there are other ways to make money in the music industry. So you have to push yourself creatively to, you know, work on different ways to make money.
Yeah, to find those different income streams and to support yourself and to keep getting better as you go too.
Exactly.
And so that and most, you know, if I like just back to specific lows, like I brought up that you know, when we were working with Ryan Tedder on the Travis that what was supposed to be a Travis McCoy single, like Travis wasn't getting his verses right. That was the feedback we were getting. And so what happened? The song never came out. And that was really at the tail end of Travis' career as well. And that was the biggest thing that had happened to us in years. We were on the phone with Ryan Tedder, going back and forth, working on chorus ideas. We were so excited. And then, you know, and that just, it's like, that has happened to us. And I think a lot of people have similar stories to that where you grind and grind and grind, and then you get an opportunity and it feels like that's going to be the one. And then when it slips away and the song doesn't come out or whatever, your heart feels like it dropped 1,000 feet. And that, you know, that has been, that there's been a lot of ups and downs like that for us. And a big part of kind of dealing with that too is managing expectations. Like that's something that we talk about all the time. It's like, until the song is out, until the song is on Spotify, until you can look at the liner notes and see your name, you gotta manage your emotional expectations. And it's not easy to do. It's way easier said than done. You know, we still deal with those emotions. It feels like it gets a little bit easier every day, especially, you know, being able to support ourselves in music. That makes it, you know, once you have that foundation, it dulls the sting a little bit. But I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't still sting a little bit every time. But you just have to, you know, I don't know. I found meditation, like find different ways to bring happiness to yourself. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, meaning you cannot make the only source of your happiness whether or not you succeed in this industry, because it's never gonna, you might hit big in your first year. It might take 10 years like you know, like our road has been. And you have to be able to find other sources of happiness. That's the only way you can deal with it, because there will be ups and downs. Like there's nobody's career goes like this. It just does not happen, you know? Because even when you go like this, even when you're at that next level, like even you know, writers on like the biggest writers in the world. I'm sure, like Julia Michaels, you know, like has a song come out and doesn't do as well as she thought, and that's gonna feel like a big low for her, you know. And it's just as you keep going, those lows, just the level of them changes. It doesn't change how they feel. So you got to find other sources of happiness.
Yeah, and how can a creative person learn how to accept failure? What can you advise?
I mean, for me, I tattooed the word undefeated on my arm last year, and that doesn't mean that I've never lost. It means that I've never quit. So like, yeah, you might have quote unquote failed or lost a song or a game or whatever it may be, but don't quit throughout that process. Like you can take, hey, 2 L's turn into a W, you know what I mean? So it's just about like how you think about the quote unquote tough times in your life. Like for me, I turn my lows into lessons. So you know, failure can definitely sting and burn and everything, but use that as like your fuel to get more W's and win more. So I would say like failure exists, but it doesn't bring me down. You know what I mean? It just fuels me to succeed more and to learn, you know, why it didn't work.
Well, yeah, if you're listening, if you are listening, failure is the greatest teacher. If you can step outside of yourself, put your ego aside, and be able to really like when something doesn't happen, and if you're able to really analyze, okay, why didn't this happen? Why didn't this song do well? Why didn't I get this song? I loved this song. I thought this song was amazing. How come nobody's cut it? Take a step outside of yourself and really try to analyze like exactly where you are. Is it a political thing? Is it that, but also really listen to your song. Like, are there parts of it that could be better? What, you know, and then let's even do that when the song's out. If the song is out and it's not performing, what could have been better? What could you have spent more time on? And then what's out of your control too, because that's also important to think about. It's like, it's not, you have to be realistic about what you could have done and what was totally out of your control. Because the only thing that you can change is what you could have done differently. And so as long as you take those lessons with you into the next project, into the next song, into the next writing session, into the next meeting, into the next room, you're only going to get better as you go. That's how you take failure and turn it into success. I mean, and again, it's another one of those things that's easier said than done, because these songs are personal to people. It's art. It's emotional. So you get attached to these things that you create. I think Mike's a little bit better at detaching himself from stuff like that than I am. And I know that there are varying degrees of that, but I'm always trying to get better at that. About, you know, if I were just a listener, like, forget being attached to this song at all, you know what I mean? Trying to just put ego aside, look at what's right in front of you, take whatever that you could do differently and try to do it better or different next time. That's it. And that's it.
Yeah. So as the creators, we always want to work more to create more new cool songs, but how to find the right balance between family, work, and of course the health in our business?
Well, I would say in the early days of like working, you know, I'm 33 now. I started probably when I was like 21. I think 23 is when we signed, or 22. I was like working crazy hours. We'd work from like 3 p.m. to like 4 a.m., go to sleep, wake up, go back to the studio. So I think, you know, finding other streams of happiness is important. Finding time to work on your health mentally and physically, you know, going to the gym, breaking a sweat always helps me think of new ideas. Even when I'm not even listening to music, if I'm just breaking a sweat, I'm thinking like, oh, what about this idea? What about this idea? So preoccupying my mind with something else, but then allowing creativity to flow in is really important. So for me, mental health, physical health is so important in order to move and navigate through the music industry with peace and happiness and being calm?
Yeah, I think there's a, everyone has their different processes, and I wouldn't want to put anyone to put anyone down who works this way necessarily, but there's a way of working in this industry. You hear a lot of writers say like, oh, this is my second session today. This is my third session today. Oh, we wrote 5 songs last night. And I always feel like quality over quantity is better, and the quality of your art. I mean, if you're pulling from personal experience, like, you need to go out and get inspiration in order to write your songs. You need to go live. I feel like, spending 14, 15 hours a day in the studio every single day, writing 3 songs a day, can be a source of pride for some people, but it's like, how good are those songs? And then what does the rest of your life look like? How are your friendships? How is your relationship with your family? How is your mental health? How is your physical health? Like, you're not sleeping normal hours. You're not waking up with the sun. You don't have time to talk to a therapist. You don't have time to call your mom, and you see it. A lot of people, like us, like in the beginning of our working relationship, like, I know, like, both of our friendships suffered big time. Like, we both, kind of stopped communicating with our friends as much because we were spending so much time in the studio working. And it's like, you have to make time for those other things, because life is the inspiration for music and art. If you're not living, you have nothing to write about. So what are you pulling from? What are you doing?
Yeah. Can you tell what could be the ways of earning money in the music business that you learned for the time right now?
So, obviously, the most obvious is place a record with a big artist and make a lot of money. But the
number 1 Billboard hit. That would be my.
But yeah, man. I mean, there's plenty of ways to make money in the music industry. You can go all the way to working with independent artists, to sign artists, to developing artists and getting them signed, and then making money that way. You can also make music for commercials, for films, for TV, for sports events. You can make money doing music for documentaries, for short films, whatever other creative entity needs music, you can make that music for that entity. So, like, think about where you hear music, which is pretty much everywhere, even in elevators. Like, I'm sure somebody has a contract with some elevator company that's like, hey man, I'm gonna make the music that you guys play in the elevator. So you just gotta push yourself, creatively speaking, in business, where it's like, okay, well, if this one avenue that most people are shooting at isn't hitting for me, how can I still do music, right, and learn along the way to where I can get that big hit? And that's, kind of what we were forced to, pushing ourselves into film and TV and sync and all that stuff. So believe me, there are plenty of people who want to spend money with producers and writers and want to be in the studio and make music. So that money's out there. You just got to go find it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like, we spent a lot of our first years making music, and even Mike, before we started working together, finding artists with budgets on Craigslist. Like, if you have zero relationships in the music industry, you can go look on Craigslist, look on the internet. You can find independent artists with a budget, and you can go out there and get money. Another great way that we have made money in the past, when we were first starting to get into working in film and television, is doing library music. It doesn't pay that much up front, but if you can get a relationship with a company like Killer Tracks, or a company like that makes like stock sort of library music, like, if you look at what our BMI statements look like quarterly, the majority of that, they get better every year, and the majority of that money comes from little tracks we did for library music that just played 100 times on Mike and Mike in the Morning, or 50 times on Sports Center, you know, and those quarters, those pennies add up, you know. If you can kind of get in on that world and get some library music out there, you can start making a passive income and have quarterly money coming in. That's like real money.
Yeah. So now we're going to our followers list of questions, and the first one is from Pro by DCO. He asks you, how did you guys get signed? But you already answered that question. Yeah. Nicko Ferguson asks you, how was it writing with Iggy?
It was a lot of fun. She's extremely funny and extremely kind and caring, and it works extremely hard, picks up rhythm and flow extremely easy, and yeah, I just think overall just a very bright light and funny light in the studio, and I definitely think that we have a friend for life in her, so it was very easy for me.
Yeah, she's a super blast to be around, just like constant laughs. And like Mike said, I mean, when she gets in the booth, like 2 takes, she's got it. She's a killer in the booth. And her stories, man, just like she's got tons of hilarious industry stories, and she is pretty fearless when it comes to being herself and talking about that. So it's just really fun. She's just really, really fun to be around.
Very honest and pure person, for sure.
For real.
So you were on the same studio, right, with her, but the quarantine was over at that time?
No, we all got in and wore masks and had hand sanitizer.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it was a big studio, so we were able to kind of keep space.
Okay. Iggy Azalea IMD asks you, what's something that you guys always look to for inspiration when it comes to beats, etc.? So what's your inspiration?
I would say past and present music. You know, what are songs and tracks from back in the day that I used to love, that I still listen to, and like, why do I still listen to them? And then tracks today where I'm like, okay, why is this song hitting? Why does this song make me want to, you know, keep playing it back and back and back? So for me, it's I look for things that are different and unique, and that I feel as though like can stand the test of like just a moment, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we both, you know, spend a lot of time listening to new music, and if something makes me feel something, I try to think about what it is about that made me feel something. Is it the synth sound in the intro? Is it the tone of the, you know, is it the singer's tone? Is it the lyric? Is it the melody? What is it? And then, you know, oftentimes just try to encapsulate some version of that feeling in a different way. You know, how can I make a guitar sound that sounds something like that, but do my own, but kind of make it my own. And that's how I think that's how we find inspiration. Yeah.
Cool. ThisIsKeta asks you, I think you know her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kita.
Kita, oh sorry, this is Kita. Did you ever almost give up music?
I would say very close. I mean, when we started off in the music industry, I said to myself, like, by the time I'm 30, if I'm not able to support myself financially and be independent, then I would find something else to do. So there were some times where I was like, man, am I gonna quote unquote make it? But to answer the question, I would say damn near almost, but I don't really like to quit things. I like to push through and show my strength.
Yeah, I definitely had, I can think of 2 or 3 moments where I felt so hopeless and desperate and exhausted that I felt like I wanted to quit and run away. And I had, my significant other, my partner has dealt with some health issues, and so there were definitely times when I was dealing with those health issues where everything felt so overwhelming. I felt like I didn't really have, I didn't have enough of myself to give to do it right, and I felt so far from success that I just couldn't even imagine a world in which I was able to continue living like this, and doing this. So yeah, there were at least 3 different times where I felt like that, but I always had Mike, pushing. We had each other, in those low moments to be like, let's just keep going. And we always would repeat to each other, the only people that fail are the people that quit. The only people that fail are the people that quit. Because that's true. You stick around long enough, something's going to happen. If you keep pushing and keep working, the only people that fail are the people that quit. And I just kept reminding myself that. Also, my partner never, like, even when she was going through health stuff, like, even when I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, she always was like, I mean, she would joke with me and say, well, you're not good at anything else, so you better keep trying this. But, but for real, I mean, it's really important to surround yourself with support, because it's going to feel hopeless sometimes. And, it really helped having people around me, being like, don't, keep going. You're closer than you think.
Yeah. She also asks you, do you have any side hustles?
Side hustles?
I mean, there was one point where I needed money, so I drove for Uber and Lyft, or just Uber. I forgot if it was both.
He had a 5-star rating.
Yeah.
No big deal.
People love me. But I would say, I'm always interested in other creative ways to make money. So I'm always pushing myself to, learn new things, to do new things. But for the majority of my time, I'm putting that into music and building my first kind of pillar / foundation of my job. Of my main hustle being music, and then hopefully down the road I can get into whether it be real estate or homes or interior design or fashion or whatever else it may be. That will come later after I build the foundation with music.
Yeah, I do some comedy writing on the side. I have a friend that I write pilots with, and we've written some comedy songs together and stuff like that. I wouldn't really call it a side hustle. It all just kind of feeds into itself. But the vast majority of my time is spent making music. For the first years of my of working in the business, like when I first started working with Mike, I was making coffee. I was a barista. Then I worked at a radio station, running sound at a radio station at KTLK. What's up, Clear Channel? We would end sometimes in the studio. We would end at 2-3 in the morning, and then I would start my shift at the radio station at 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it was no fun, and I was not very good at that job. I got fired, and I deserved it. But
shout out to that radio.
Yeah, hey man, just wasn't for me, but God bless. Yeah, and then after that, for years, for over 2 years, I was waiting tables just serving as a server. I mean, I had to make rent, and I wasn't making money in music really. I mean, you know, scraps here, like pennies there. But yeah, for the first, I don't know, what, 6-7 years of our of our time in the industry, I had a side job, and we're both very lucky to not have to do that anymore.
Oh yeah. She also asks you, how do you prefer to work?
How come she gets 3 questions?
She got more. She got more.
Oh my god.
What's up, Kita?
What's up, Kita?
The way that we prefer to work, I mean, obviously in person, and we obviously respect what's going on right now. So FaceTime and Zoom and all that definitely works and will do. But yeah, obviously prefer to be in the room together and shoot around ideas. But however people work, we're easily adjustable and flexible. It's all about collaboration and making it easy and show.
I really like, just personally, I really love just starting on one instrument, like, and like outside. Like, sometimes it's great to be in the studio and you have a sound, or you have like a temp track to start off. But there's something really nice about just being outside with a guitar, just coming up with a unique concept or a really, really amazing melody. It's like a great starting point. You got the sun on you, and you feel like it can be a really invigorating way to start a song. I really like starting that way.
Yeah. Another question from Kita. What are some of your favorite songs / artists / albums out?
That's a very loaded question. I love it. Kita's bringing the heat. I would say one of my favorite songs right now. I mean, I for a long time I was loving that Dior record by Pop Smoke. I thought that was really, really cool and unique, because I never heard anybody over in the States like rapping over some type of like grime-esque beat, but also still felt like American and, you know, New York and everything. So I really like that. I'm a huge fan of Travis Scott. Love West Coast rap, so even old stuff and new stuff I'm always a fan of.
Roddy Ricch.
Yeah, Roddy Ricch, his melodies are fire. And then I just say, like, in general, I'm just such a student when it comes to pop music that it's hard for me to necessarily pick one artist, one album, one song or whatever. So the beautiful thing about where we're at in the world is that anybody can release music super easy. So you can discover new things every week, right? But the other thing is then you don't necessarily live with it for that long, because the next week, you know, 500,000 songs get put out. So it's hard for me personally to just pick one thing at the time, but generally speaking, those are like the artists and vibes that I like.
Right now, for me, I've been listening to Run the Jewels' new album a lot. It's really great, and it makes you want to get up and like protest. So it's if you're like dealing with like anger or like, you know, just need to scream or something, throw that album on, turn it up really loud, and just drive. I've definitely done that on a few occasions, and it feels really good. Bon Iver's new single is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Justin Vernon in general, but the new single is amazing. He once or twice on an album he'll do an entire song where he sings with this like formant effect on his vocal where it pitches it up where it's pitched up a little bit, and it's just a really cool, but it's on top of like a really beautiful piano sort of folk song. So I just love how he mixes folk, like classic elements, and really cool interesting, unique, like modern production stuff. And you can definitely hear that on the new single. I love it.
Also, Drake never misses. That dude is so consistent. He's amazing.
And the last question from Kita. Yeah. So how has 2020 impacted your lives in the Korea?
I would say career-wise, it's like slowed it down, but also sped it up in a weird way. You know, a lot of things have happened with our career. We had one manager, and now we don't have him, and we have new management. So that was really a blessing for us. And then I would say, like, just overall, it's challenged us to change our approach to a lot of things, both when it comes to music, but then also our lives. I've been able to focus on my health tremendously, and that's been a huge help. And yeah, I would say it's been a little bit difficult, but at the same time, we're all learning together and changing and adjusting, and that's what life's all about.
Yeah, there's been a lot of growing pains, for sure. But I think, just to Mike's point about focusing on health, like, it's been a good reminder, you know, especially because of the fact that we have new management. We've gotten some opportunities. Within the span of this year, we have this, you know, this placement coming out with Iggy and Tinashe, you know, arguably our biggest placement yet, and it's in a quarantine year. So it goes to show that, like, you can, and you know, I think what's important about that point is that it's juxtaposed with the fact that we've spent a lot more time at home, spent a lot more time by our, you know, separate from each other. We're not writing, we haven't been, you know, writing as much. You know, we've been doing some Zoom sessions. It's picking up more now that we're you know, we've both been tested, and so we're writing on Mike's front porch and stuff, but we were able to get that success and still take time to focus on our mental health, our physical well-being and stuff. And it was great. It was sort of a forced perspective, but a good one nonetheless, you know?
Yeah. I think 2020, we need that year to sit down and understand what's really important in our lives. Because we before 2020, we were always in a rush of doing things, not just like sitting and understanding what we really need in our lives. And if we're talking about the health and the health issues, I listened to the podcast that Mike was in one of the episodes about the issues and the how what issues did you have when you were a kid, and how you had a tremendous will to pass it. And can you share like a little bit of that story so people can sorry, I forgot the word. As I said in the beginning, I can forget the words. So people that have some health issues and maybe some pain in their life, how can they deal with it, and how can they not give up?
So to answer your question, I was paralyzed from my chest all the way down when I was 15 years old. I was told I was never going to walk again. What happened was I got low bridged, so my legs got taken out from underneath me. I fell on my back. I had a 6-inch blood clot pressing on my spinal cord, so that stopped me from moving and almost breathing from my chest all the way down. And I was 15. I was really young. I wanted to be in the NBA really bad, and would do anything to reach that goal. So, you know, for me, I always had something that I was chasing. I always had something that I was like fighting for, or, you know, trying to climb up the mountain for. And so I had a lot of hope when I was a kid. I had a lot of blind faith. I was a bit ignorant in terms of what I was like going through. But, you know, I feel like being a little bit ignorant when it comes to certain things can be a good thing. So for me, it was just understanding that the only person that is going to stop me is myself, and I tattooed that on my foot. Can't stop me. And so I started to really adopt that motto and realize that I'm the one who controls where I go in my life, nobody else. So I was really blessed to have extremely beautiful and loving family, a twin brother that, you know, fought by my side every day, and a mother that stayed in the hospital with me, and a dad that made me laugh consistently and always made me feel like I was strong. So I was really grateful for that, and grateful to have friends back then and new friends in Jordan that you know, have continued to push me and make me feel like everybody else, because at the end of the day, we're all people. It doesn't matter how we walk or how we talk or whatnot. We're all people. That's our species. So we should all treat each other like that, because I don't see how anybody is necessarily different in a bad way. I think that the differences in the way that we may walk, or the way that we may talk, or the way that we may look makes our, you know, the quilt of people more unique and interesting. And I just hope that more people along the way can see that, but also support those that are in need, whether it be, you know, something small or big that somebody's going through. They're still going through it, and the bigger team that you have to help move yourself through something that's traumatic for you, it's always going to help. But at the end of the day, they're never going to do the work for you. You still have to do your work.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really, I think, your words and your story and how you surpass it. This is like a role model for like many people.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, meeting Mike changed my life for sure. Just, you know, the work ethic and the ability to overcome adversity, you know, was so inspiring for me. And he has that effect on a lot of people, and it radiates through him, through me. Like, I've adopted some of you know, some of the things that have helped him move through that have helped me in my life in so many ways, and I try to, you know, help spread that message to other people too. And it's just the more people that know the story, it's you know, it can help a lot of people be able to put their things into perspective and stuff. So
cool. Now we're going to the Blitz poll. You should answer quickly, but not necessarily monosyllabically, okay? 3 artists that you ever dreamed to work with.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Justin Timberlake, Eminem, and I'd probably say Jay-Z. Those would be my top 3.
Cool.
Okay.
Jordan?
Damn.
Let's go.
This is tough. Okay. All right. Childish Gambino. Damn. Oh my God, this is so hard. RZA, Wu-Tang Clan. And
Justin Vernon.
Oh, Justin Vernon. Yeah. Justin Vernon, for sure. Thank you.
3 artists of all time that you would like to talk with.
I'd probably say those 3. Same. Justin Timberlake, Eminem, Jay-Z. Maybe take one of those out and put Rick Rubin in there, even though he's not necessarily an artist. I would love to pick his brain, or Pharrell. Fuck, that's so hard. Or Timbaland. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hard to pick 3 for sure.
I would say Stevie Wonder is up there for me. Prince, I'd love to be able to sit down and talk to that guy.
He wouldn't talk back though.
No, but he would emanate out.
Yeah.
I would know, you know.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder, Prince. George Harrison.
Okay. 3 virtual synths that are your go-to when you start your project.
the Tal Uno, then the Arturia Prophet, and then I probably keep it basic. Just contact �𝐃𝐄𝐄𝐒 acoustic piano.
Ooh, contact's dope. Yeah, Jordan.
I use the Arturia Jupiter a lot. Mellotron I like a lot. I use that a lot for like more hip hop stuff. I do a lot of guitar stuff, so I use Guitar Rig all the time.
Awesome. 3 best effects plugins that you love.
Decapitator, auto-tune, but like using it like an instrument, you know, like tuning the hell out of stuff and making like a vocal sound like a synth. And then I love the Tao Chorus plugin. It's free, but it's amazing. It spreads everything just out. It's amazing.
And there's 2 different choruses on there too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, that's great. I love I like all the Sound Toy stuff, so I really love Effect Rack because you can pull all the different sounds in.
Totally.
Effect Rack is great, but then within Sound Toys too, Little Altar Boy, I use that all the time, and
Valhalla.
Yeah, Valhalla Reverb, yeah.
Yeah, well, hell yeah. 3 things that you love in the music business.
The challenge, the chase, and the championships. 3 C's.
Damn, man, that sounds
3
good.
C's.
There's nothing I could possibly say that would sound better than that. Can we just cut it right there? Could that be the end of the interview?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
3 things
He's
I love in
good.
the interview, in the music business.
Dylon, and Dylon.
3 things I love in the music business. I love my friends. I love the friendships that I've made. Mike and Brooke at UMPG, our manager 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐎, and like just some of our co-writers. Like Tima D is one of our frequent co-writers, and she's just like a sister. Like, and then making music with those people. The friendships, actually making music, I would say, and
And me.
and Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. 3 things that you want to change in music business.
I want to change how
long do you have?
I want to change. So 1, I want to change how people get paid. 2, I want to make sure that everybody gets health care. 3, I want to change how like the people that are in positions of power in the music industry. I want them to be like more ex-musicians or ex-band members or ex-artists, or people that really understand and get the creative process, so those would be like my top 3.
I mean, a lot of the same stuff. One big thing that comes to mind is the laws regarding royalty rates. I know he's talked about how we get paid, but just that even with the Music Modernization Act, it's just still not where it needs to be, and we need better agreements with these streaming services for songwriters. It's just we're making pennies on the dollar for what we should be making. I'd love to see more diversity in producers, and I think a lot of that, it's mostly male, and I would love to see more. It's happening a bit, but I would like to see a lot more female producers, and I think a lot of that starts, just diversity in the creative side of the industry in general, I think comes a lot from education. And so I would love to see a much bigger push for music education, but in a modern way for younger people. People that having access to the technology from a much younger age in order to be able to learn how to use it, and just so it feels like an option for people. Like, okay, I could do this. And yeah, I know that's only 2, but that's all I got.
Okay. So if you have an unlimited budget, what 3 pieces of gear you will buy for your studio?
A computer, a microphone, and speakers.
I thought you will be, I thought it would be much more specific, like a rare Neumann or like a Tube Tech preamp or something like that.
I want the fastest computer so I don't have to ever bitch at my computer. And then I want a really great...
Okay, the last Mac Pro, yeah.
Yeah, the latest and greatest fully decked out Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Then I would probably say... like the lunchbox where you can get the 𝐕𝐈 preamp with the API EQ, so where you could take it anywhere, and then a portable mic. I mean, I like the one that we got, the TLM. I think this is the 102.
102.
But yeah, something like
Maybe
that. Yeah, I'd probably
like
say
a vintage Neumann, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be cool.
Mine would be all guitars for sure.
For sure, I had no doubts in you.
I would buy one of them would be a 1950s maple neck Telecaster.
Nice.
Yeah, the with the clean like light wood body, the one that that Bruce Springsteen used to play. I love that guitar. So I'd get that. Like a 60s 12-string Martin. I would love that. I would also love �𝐄𝐈𝐄𝐄𝐄 makes these guitars with where the frets are like spanned out, so you get perfect intonation throughout the entire neck.
Wow.
And it's an incredible feat of engineering, and I want one of those.
Cool. So in the last one, if you go on an inhabited island alone for 1 week and you need to pick 3 music albums, what will you pick?
These are hard questions, man.
Yeah, Brooke said so.
Yeah, I would say Bon Iver, the one with Holocene on it. What's that one called?
It's the self-titled.
Okay. That one to be like calm and peaceful, and then the Future Sex Love Sounds by Justin Timberlake, because that was the album that like made me want to do music, and there's just really great musicianship and melodies and songs, so that would make me dance. And then I'd probably want the Jay-Z Black album to like pump me up so I could like go out and fight bears and protect my island. Not that bears live on an island, but beware the island bears.
Yeah, all those bears on Jamaica.
It's an interesting island when you and the bears are living there.
Exactly. Go ahead.
I think I would go Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, for sure. I can listen to that start to finish over and over again. I love that album so much. Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Again, you know, if I need to fight bears, I can put that on.
Basically, it's just Jordan and I fighting in bear costumes.
Listening to the Pink Floyd and the Wu-Tang.
Yeah. Those two, and then Carole King, Tapestry. I love some of the best songwriting ever, I think, on that album.
Cool. You did it great. We're finishing with Blitz and a contest. What's gonna be the prize?
The prize for the contest is a 30-minute call with Mike and I, where we will listen to your music. If you're an upcoming producer or writer, we'll listen to your music. We'll give you notes and feedback. We'll go more in depth with you about our story, how we got where we are, and kind of give you any advice we can in those in that 30-minute call.
Awesome. So the term, this is going to be only one term. You will put in comments on the YouTube the alternative naming for that great guys that you were watching through the whole time. So the most funny, the most creative naming for Jordan and Mike and what they love the most, that is going to be the winner.
Sweet.
Yeah, so anything that makes us laugh, that's extra points.
As
Bonus
long
points.
as it's not offensive. If you're offensive, you're gonna get blocked.
In the end, you can say your best advices for all the people that were watching us all the time, for all the upcoming writers, producers, artists, and the creatives.
Always take care of yourself in all capacities, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Take care of yourself. Put yourself first. Put the oxygen mask on yourself before you save anybody else. You know, I think like understanding that how much potential you really have, and as corny as it sounds, never giving up and following your dreams no matter where they may take you, because it might not lead exactly to where you want to go, but it might, you know, bring you somewhere else where you're just as happy. And you know, find happiness in yourself, not in other things.
And I would say, put your ego aside. You know, if you're trying to get better at something, put ego aside and try to learn, and that, because that's really the only way to grow. And if you can do that, you'll be much happier in all ways, you know. And that's a big part of meditation. I would tell anyone and their mother to meditate. Just start with 5 minutes a day. It's the best way to really put yourself aside and just reconnect with, you know, just remember that we're a part of nature, just as much as a tree, just as much as a stream. You know, we belong here. This is our planet. This is our place to grow and build and create. And the best way to do that is to put the ego aside and rejoin, be a part of it.
Never stop learning. The more you learn, the more you earn, the more you know, the more you grow. It rhymes for a reason.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. It was my biggest pleasure to have you, and it was super awesome talk about the health, the creativity, the goals, the business. Like, I think there's gonna be super valuable for all people that's gonna watch it. So I really think that this placement is one of the many that will that you will have in your closest future. And like, I wish you all the best. You're the great guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man.
Be healthy and wealthy, as I always say to all people that I connect.
Yes,
Love
sir.
it. Love it. Always stay healthy and get as much wealth as you can.
That doesn't just mean money.
Yeah.